What's happening? Let's see who we got here. We got Gary, Standing Stone, Henny. Oh, they're starting to slide in on us, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, welcome everybody to another edition of Paranormal Cryptic Conspiracy. Hey, what we got? Nana Boss. Hey there, what's going on? How you doing there, Chris? You're muted, Chris.
Oh, there I am. Howdy, howdy.
There you are. So what's going on?
What's up, what's up? Welcome, everybody. Oh, man. Oh, we got a good show for you guys tonight.
So, very interesting. I was just going through the camera, and not only is my date and time has changed on my DSLR camera, but I'm missing a lot of pictures. And I just now checked it for the first time since I've been out of the woods from Operation Camera Stealth. So,
What'd you
did
take
I get
pictures of?
zapped? In the woods and the surroundings and everything.
Just around? Okay.
You know how you get that very weird feeling when you're out there in the woods that you're being watched? So I was taking pictures of me being out in the woods, you know, just taking pictures. Now, I'm not saying, ladies and gentlemen, that there was something watching me. I'm just saying, you know, I get scared. But you know how I said that I talked to a photographer and I used to be an amateur photographer, and that on your camera settings, if you have it set on auto, sometimes it will not take a picture because it has to manually or automatically adjust, right? So sometimes I would try to aim here and it wouldn't take a photograph, but I move it over and it would snap. So I was trying to figure out if it was, you know, something like a branch or a leaf in the way, you know, it was focusing on up close and not far away. But right for the show, it had the year 2009 on the camera and the wrong time and everything. And I put fresh batteries and everything in that camera.
You had it all set up before you went out?
Yeah, and I tested it. You know me, man. I'm always a tester.
I know.
So what we got going on tonight? Welcome everybody to the show. Yeah,
well,
everybody's
we got
rolling
a
in.
special guest tonight.
Connie. Really? Who do we have?
We got the man, the myth, the legend, Skunk Ape legend, Mr. David Shelay from the Florida Everglades with us tonight. And if you guys don't know him, he's got probably next to the Gimlin film, I think he's got probably the best well-known, you know, Bigfoot footage out there that's on the internet as far as I'm concerned. And so we brought him here to talk about a little bit.
All right, well, let's welcome aboard. Now, you did bring the footage with you, right? Welcome, David. How you doing there?
I'm doing good. Good. It's good to see you guys tonight.
Hey, nice to have you. Welcome. Introduce yourself and everybody.
Oh, I'm Dave Shelay. I'm the lead researcher at Skunk Ape Research Headquarters here in the Everglades. I've been researching skunk apes now for about 48 years. Pretty much Florida's expert on the skunk ape. I'm the leader in this type of a research. A lot of people are getting into it now. And, I used to always say I was the best and I was the greatest, and I probably was, but there was nobody else doing it back when I started. But today we've got a lot of young people, a lot of very talented people, well-educated people that are out in the fields doing research. So I retired about 2 years ago. I still run the research facility. I still go out in the woods and do a little research. I'm not completely out of it, but I've slowed down quite a bit, and it's fun for me to see new people coming into the field. God knows we need it. I've been on my own for 25 years.
Right.
And it's good to be on the show tonight. I was listening to you before I came on about your camera, and I hear that occasionally from researchers here in the Everglades that they're having problems with their electronics. And it actually happened to me. It's been about a year ago. I was brought onto the Seminole Indian Reservation to do some research, and all of my gear was completely power charged up. I'm a real stickler about that. And
Absolutely.
we got into the woods, or I got into the woods. I was with Indians. I left them, unfortunately. And I went to use my lights and use my phone, and just a major power draw. But the grace of God, I was able to contact an individual who was on an airboat a few miles away, and they came and picked me up. I was out of commission electronically. I had no reason to be out there. I had no lights. So these things happen in areas where there's a lot of activity. And so it's just something interesting that I'm noticing is kind of trending here the last couple of years. I figured I'd mention that to you.
Yeah, I was telling Chris and you right for the show. It looks like I lost a lot of pictures too. So that kind of baffled me because I just put the card in, ladies and gentlemen, right before the show. And I had to pick up the camera because, I had everything formatted before I went on Operation Camera Stealth Camera and on the mission, and fresh batteries, make sure everything was programmed, the date and time, the year, because I want everything time stamped on all my photographs. So that way, if something did happen, I had it recorded. But surprise to me, lo and behold, I'm one of those victims, I guess. So interesting.
It does happen. I mean, it happened to us a few weeks back. We went and checked our ones in the field. We have a couple deer cams up, and Marie pulled them apart, and both of them had the same exact error message: no firmware available. Like, it didn't even turn on. One of them was still taking pictures, even though it said that, and the other one just said that and it just crashed completely. It didn't come back to life. She was able to revive the other one, but pretty unusual because they were both a good 100 yards apart from each other. That come up with the same error message. It was just kind of really odd. But it happens a lot. There's a lot of people out there that have a lot of electronic issues when they go on about. Cell phones go crazy, cameras get wiped. I mean, who knows? There's probably some kind of anomaly that happens with them. That's all I can figure out.
Interesting.
I've always maintained in my research that skunk apes are a biological animal. I hope that's the right word. They're not human, but they're mammal animal. And I never really got so much into the the UFO thing or anything like that, or shape shifting. But over the years, I've seen a lot of unusual things happen in the field, and I don't know if I think these skunk apes and stuff have the power to drain our cameras. But what I do know is what's happening in the field to researchers who are researching in these areas, and that's just a matter of fact. You can't ignore that. You can't deny that fact.
I agree with you.
No,
You can't ignore it.
And I did, Mr. Shelay, I did check and tested every trail cam. I got different makes and models, some IR, some infrared, some not infrared and non-IR, some motion. So I tested every one of them, firmware updated, programmed every one of them. They took 8 batteries. I'd use a mixture of rechargeable batteries, lithium batteries, Duracell batteries, Nikon batteries, just because I heard they can smell them, they can sense them. So I tried everything. And I even use Gorilla Tape, the masking tape that you shipping. And I use some booby traps. I've tried everything. So I don't know what I'm going to come up with. Maybe nothing, right? So, but you know,
if we get something,
if not, I've got other tactics in the bag that I'm going to try. So I'm going to keep trying. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, I get this question all the time. Why has anybody got any clear footage of a skunk ape here in Florida? There's so many trail cameras out and so many eyes in the forest. Well, I'm here to tell you that I've seen a lot of really good pictures that have been taken with trail cams here in the Everglades. A lot of the hunters have them out. They come in, and I'm impressed. I'm seeing an ape, and I'm not seeing anything else. I mean, this is a big man covered with hair. Is in their hunting area, and but they're reluctant to give those pictures up. And some of them say, "Well, this has got to be worth something." And I said, "Well, it's I don't know how much it's worth, but it's definitely interesting. If you'd like to share it with me, I'll show it around." But they act like they found a piece of treasure or something. They don't want nobody to have it. They don't want nobody. They're all, freaked out about it. But this has happened time and time again. There are a lot of trail cam pictures out there. And I wish in Florida more of the hunters and outdoorsmen that have those pictures would come forward. So pictures do get taken. They have been taken. But, like I said, this electronic issue is something that's relatively new the last couple of years that's coming up with trail cameras. I don't know what it is. I know the night that I was out, my batteries were fully charged an hour beforehand. An hour later, everything was dead.
Yeah. See what I'm saying? So it was interesting because I put up 8 or 9 more right behind the house. And I was telling Chris earlier, I think the ground's so hard because it hasn't rained. And it's like, am I looking at something or is it paranoia, right? And I'm like, all right. And so, and of course, now I have to go back out and then retake pictures of it because it looks like I don't have pictures. But I realized the neighbor next door has got a pear tree. So in this area where I put 2 or 3 cameras up, it's just very interesting. I'll just leave it at that. Very interesting. So we'll see. If I get something great, if not, who knows, right?
Is there something about pear trees that they like, or
a food source? Deers eat them.
I mean, I like pears, but I mean,
and it's a very big pear tree. So if you don't know if it's a pear tree, you would walk right by. And when I saw it, because I was following the trails, and that's what I was looking at. These trails were so huge, it could have been like 3 of me walking through, and that's why I had these pictures up. I was like, I know what deer trails are because I'm a hunter, an ex-hunter. So, but these were just a little bit different, and it just got me thinking a little more. That's all. So, we'll wait and see.
What do you think
about?
Talk
about our little adventure up there in Tampa, Chris? A little bit about what happened there.
Yeah, that was this past weekend. Mr. Shelay came up, and we all went out and did a little field expedition to one of our areas, and it was eventful. We showed you some cool stuff that we have stumbled across and seen and had happen. And kind of in the middle of our adventure, we had a tree. I was sitting there talking to Dave, and all of a sudden we heard this tree just crash. I mean, it scared the heck out of all of us. We're all like, "What the hell was that?" I think Mike actually even said that. What the hell was that, guys? I mean, I looked over and I saw the finishing parts of it, and to me, it sounded like somebody took a tree and just pushed the damn thing over, kind of like you hear people say that in their not so pleasant Bigfoot experiences. Usually, it's a show of power or display, warning as such. But so at first, I was in my mind that what was that? And then we walk over, and there was just a huge branch that came down. It scraped against another tree all the way down, and what was it? Probably 25, 30 foot long, David, something like that. And it was probably a
Oh
good
yeah,
10 inches wide at the base of it. It was a branch
it
that
weighed a
just broke
couple
off.
100 pounds.
Oh, easy.
It was
It,
green too. That's what got my attention. And generally there'll be a rotten limb will fall out. It's unusual that a green limb would fall out of a tree like that. And I guess we'll go back to the beginning. I've been researching skunk apes down here in the Everglades now for 48 years, and I've come to the conclusion that we have between 7 and 9 skunk apes that live here in South Florida in the Everglades area. It's a 3 million acre area. It's the largest wild protected area east of the Mississippi. And like I said earlier, I've always liked to say I'm the best, but I was the only one, so it was easy. But I always like to think the Everglades was the #1 skunk ape hotspot, and I guess it is here in Florida. But the truth be known, there's a lot of wild corridors that wrap around Lake Okeechobee and head to the north, and branch out into Kissimmee, Orlando, over towards Jacksonville, and Tampa. So there's been sightings in all of those areas over the years, and I've heard about it, but I've never really had the finances and the time to go out and do the research. So it was nice to get up into Tampa with the Mid Florida Bigfoot Research Group and go into a super hot spot with them. So as we entered this area just outside of Tampa, um, I was I'm not a skeptic by any means. I don't go into any situation looking for the bad. I want to see the good in it, but I'm a realist, and so we get in there, and there was a bait site. One of the group members had went in beforehand and put some bait out. They do that. I'm not a big baiter. It just always leads to trouble. But if it's kept down to a minimum, that's okay. So as we're walking, we come to a stop. This huge limb crashes down from probably 50 foot up in a tree. Skunk apes, unlike the Bigfoot, spend a lot of time in the treetops. We have water here in the Everglades. The government's even had researchers down here looking into my work. They think it's a small group of orangutans that have escaped and got a residence here in the Everglades. So back to the story. When I heard the tree branch snapping in the very beginning, or the limb, it wasn't a branch, it was huge. I automatically began looking through the treetops around where the limb was falling to see what caused it to break. There was no wind or anything. And I did see slight movement in the distance. And I can only think that we went into the area and that there was a skunk ape living there, and it's living there. And it was moving through the treetops away from us. I really didn't get into detail with the group while we were in the woods. I wanted to enjoy the moment and listen to the conversations that they were having. But that's what I took from that particular incident. Now, Chris, if you want to go ahead with our walk in that area, that would be nice. It was definitely interesting up there.
oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, we had that event, and then a little bit later, we end up stumbling across a wild boar that actually all of us managed to walk by it, except for Dave. Kind of hangs back. David looked back, and he's like, "Hey, I think there's a dead boar over here." And Mike turns around and walks back to David, and next thing you know, he starts walking towards it, and this darn thing stands up, shows his cutters that are nice and big, and I don't know, we feel like he might have been possibly injured because he didn't charge. He kind of just hung out there. Mike and all of us backed up, and then he ended up like laying back down. So we're not really sure what all transpired out of what would have happened, but we really didn't want to play with Mr. Piggy too much. So David had a good eye though, man. You caught that one because we all walked by it, and he was probably what 10 yards away at most. I mean, it wasn't very far away from us.
I've been a avid bow hunter for the best part of my life. Spent a lot of time in the woods. I'm always looking for downed animals, and I just saw that hindquarter sticking out behind the ferns. It was, I don't know, it just stuck out to me. But I'm going to give you my takeaway from exactly what was going on there. We had went in, we we had this huge limb come down, and I'm glad we weren't standing under it because it would have killed us. I saw movement in the trees, and it wasn't 15 minutes later that I spotted this wild hog tucked in the ferns, and I held back. I've been doing this type of research all my life in the depths of the Florida Everglades, and I have had countless encounters, life-threatening encounters with all of our native wildlife: alligators, crocodiles, sharks, rattlesnakes. I've been bitten twice, and so I guess as you get older, you get a little wiser. So instead of walking over there and seeing what that was, I called the group back and figured I'd get the young muscle-bound buck Mike to go over there and see if he could, get a better look at it. I've walked up on sleeping bears. You never know. And
Wow.
oh my God, well, it got up. But what was unusual about the situation is, looking back now, I think that the animal's legs were broken, at least the two back legs, maybe one front leg. And over the years in my research, I found a lot of dead animals, of course, that I believe were skunk ape kills. One of the things that they'll do is they'll catch an animal and they will literally break its legs and just leave it there on the ground because it'll still be alive, but it's not going to go anywhere. And then they'll come back to it and feed on it. Maybe they caught a couple of them. And one other thing is, you hear of the fainting goats. You laugh or you holler and they faint. Well, I get around, and one of the things about a wild pig, and I've done it a few times. It's hard, but if you find one and you start chasing it, and you are relentless in your pursuit of that wild pig, this is just a man on foot. That pig will lay down and try to be so still, and it almost like it faints, and you can step right over it and not even see it. It's because they're scared to death. That animal that we found was not only scared to death, it was injured. It was hiding from us in the highest form of hiding. It was fearing for its life. So that was definitely an interesting find. And as the walk continued, it was just unbelievable. It's a super hot spot, and I'm really glad to see that, because the population of these animals here in Florida is so small that there's got to be other ones in order to carry on the genes. And these wildlife corridors, like the one that leads to Tampa, holds, I believe, a few of these animals, and that's just fantastic news for my research.
Yeah, and there's a lot of those corridors exist. You got the Ocala, I mean, through the Green Swamp through Pasco and Hillsborough, Cypress Creeks, all these different places around here. And you're right. I mean, even Okeechobee, all the way down. There's plenty of those preservations, and some of them funnel down to just little tiny corridors, but that's all I need to get around. So it's all connected. Hopefully they keep the developing away from some of those corridors. They try to, but you know how that works, as
I
you
know
know
how
down
it
there.
works, and I know both sides of the fence. Them people that own that land, their families have owned that land for hundreds of years, and these developers are coming in and offering them so much money, and they're selling out. Times are changing here in Florida, and they have a right to make money. They've worked hard all their lives, and they have a right to a fair property value. And I wish the state would step in even more heavily and pay these people what they want for their land, instead of just having it all sold out for development. I'm not into eminent domain. I'm not into villainizing people to get a lowball price. I'm talking about pay these people what their land is worth realistically, if they want to sell. I think that would be really good.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I
No doubt about it.
We got
Oh,
so many people, they're environmentalists and they're concerned about the environment, And the way that they show their support for the environment is to eminent domain somebody's land. That's not right.
Right.
That's, we're all humans. We're all brothers and sisters, and we need to all keep that in mind and treat each other like we'd want to be treated.
Or they just burn you out of it if not.
Oh, I lived through it. I mean, we could get into the government thing. I lived through the formation of 2 national parks. My family has been villainized for the last 100 years. I went to a public school where I was taught to be ashamed of my heritage and get out of the Everglades and get a life and don't be like your parents. I mean, was taught to me much like it was taught to the Indians who were forced to go to public schools. And I'm not down in public schools. My grandkids go to, they're great. But for me, it wasn't.
They shouldn't villainize that, and they shouldn't ever lose history, as far as I'm concerned.
Well,
and they
here's
like
how
to
they
roast
did
it.
me. Here's how they did my family. They said, we got to preserve the Everglades, and people are bad. People are not part of the environment. People are not part of the ecosystem. And anybody who lives in the Everglades is a bad person. They're destroying the wilderness. And so, this is the shame that my family has had cast upon us. And I'm trying to get out front of that. So I've got a big property right in the middle of a national park. I'm a fighter. I fought for my rights. I fought to keep the land. And I fought against all odds because I was truly villainized. And this was done by the National Park Service, who I could have all of them, but they're just a branch of the cavalry. That's the National Park Service is a military organization, and anybody who thinks that it's not, it's crazy. They're the nice guys, they wear the fancy hats and ride horses, and they're all about the environment. But never forget, it's a military organization, and they act accordingly.
Interesting. So David's got a real nice campground down there at the Skunk Ape headquarters. If anybody is ever traveling through the Everglades, you probably traveled right by it, a good chance of it. As you mentioned, there's not too many ways in and ways out. But we stayed there at your campground. It's nice. I loved it. I thought it was a great campground, a fun experience. So if anybody ever, like I said, is traveling by here, I gotta share my screen real fast. Just to show a picture of it. There we go.
And I got the second biggest snake in the world there too. So I got
Goldie's her name.
Yeah, 350 pounds. She's a monster. She's a real man eater.
So there's a Skunk Ape info site, and it's got the camping in here. You can check out the campground, give
lodging,
perils.
lodging.
Yep, go to lodging.
All of our guiding.
Looks like you have parties there too, huh?
Yeah, we have guides that live on the premises. We do tours of the Everglades, eco tours.
He's got huts. He's got all kinds of different campsites for tents, RVs, all kinds of fun
indigenous
stuff.
Huts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. God bless the Skunk Ape. Oh God, I tell you what, it has been a bear hanging on to that property. Things are a little better today, but I mean, 30 years of my life, every penny I made went to just staying alive. I'm just so grateful my son has taken over the business now. He's computer savvy, and it looks like we're going to be around for a little bit longer. Anyhow.
That's good. That's good. So tell us about your first experiences with Skunk Ape as a kid. I know you were a kid, weren't you, when you had you and your brother were out and about?
Yeah, we were about a half a mile from where I'm sitting right now, back out south here on the marsh. We'd heard about the Skunk Ape growing up as kids. I was born in 1963, so it was 1973. My brother and I had taken a walk out back behind the property, which was nothing unusual. And we got out back a little bit, and He said, "Hey, Dave, what's that?" And I couldn't see it. The grass was so high. He had to pick me up where I could see over the grass. And in the distance, about 100 yards out, that's when I saw my first skunk ape. And I was sold. I've been hooked ever since. I've had 4 sightings since I lived here. I took the photographs in 1997 that highlighted on Unsolved Mysteries. That's the episode. They've run it 100 times now. And then in 2000, I took a video, which is really gone viral. I've got a special coming up on the History Channel sometime in the next few months on that particular video.
And the video is on it's on Smithsonian's magazine on their YouTube, and it's got 610,000 views right now. But yeah, it's been up there. I will show part of it, but go ahead, keep going on.
That's just one media platform. That video, that's the thing. The world is really big, and there's so many countries that have I've filmed with. For the first 10 years in the field, there really wasn't much interest here in America at all, and most of my stuff was overseas. I've done right now probably in the area of $60 million worth of airtime since I started my research, both in all different platforms of media. That particular video, even though the Smithsonian has it at what, how many views, Chris?
It's 610, almost 611,000.
611. Okay, let's just say 1 million. I mean, that's being giving. Let's say 1 million. I've probably got, that's probably been seen probably 60 to 70 million views on that particular video through all the media platforms. And that number is fixing to grow exponentially here in the next 4 months. There's been 20 years. Nobody has ever doubted the video. It stood the test of time. I'm going to stand behind the video. I'm not boasting or putting anybody down, but it's definitely, you cannot deny it is a better quality of video than the Patterson Gimlin film. It's HD. So in that regard, it's better because of the quality of the equipment. And I'm just.
What did you record this on?
I recorded that. That was a camcorder. That was they had the VHS
was a tape
cassette recorders, and then they went to the cam, which was a smaller cassette that plugged into a smaller handheld recorder. That's what I took that with.
Gotcha. Because I've seen a couple lines transfer through. You know how like the old, when you used to watch the old VHS. I'm dating myself here. Watch the old VHS, and you can see the lines go through sometimes. So I knew it wasn't like digital flip phone type of thing. You know what I mean?
No, it was called HD, but it was a cassette tape. Look at that! Look at it run! Look at it run! Look at that! That's incredible. You know, right now there's 2 foot of water on the ground out there, Chris. Wow. Oh man, look at, oh, there he goes. Oh man. Wow.
Disappears, right?
That's crazy.
That was life-changing.
Now,
Holy cow.
So let's talk about this a little bit more. So our team went down because of the lack of publicity. Well, I mean, got plenty of publicity on it, but there's a lot of people that deny what happened. If you read through a lot of those comments on Smithsonian, you're going to see a whole bunch of negative ones. It's getting better lately, the ones I've read more recent, but I mean, you scroll back, you can literally scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll. And there's just thousands upon thousands upon thousands of comments. And there's so many of them are like, just a guy in an ape suit running in a field and blah, blah, blah. Our team went down there to visit and to do a reenactment of that whole event. Was pretty special for me and our group. I will say, David, it was great experiencing that with you, and it was a pleasure sharing. You taking us back there and showing us where it all happened, and to recreate the whole thing was something else. I mean, so I end up putting up together. We actually went out there twice. So we went down there one time. It was kind of on a whim. He took us back there, and he's like, "Here's what all happened," and you guys want to recreate this? We're like, oh crap, we didn't bring anything with us. We didn't have any equipment hardly. We did have some friends down, and he had a camera rolling. So we got some video on that first attempt, and then what we came back with about a month later, and we did another attempt with another member, Thomas Brandon, who is a big, tall, 6'4" guy, and he's an athletic cross country runner, to see if he could replicate what Mr. Bigfoot did, or Skunk Ape, right? So I put together a whole little video here, and I'm going to pull this up, and I'm just
But
kind of
it
skip
looked
through
like,
it.
hello, Linda. Welcome to the show. It looked like it glided through the weeds.
Yeah.
Gliding.
Like
Yeah.
it just
You saw that.
glided. Yes.
Yeah. It's incredible. It was really moving out. It was running as fast as a deer. It almost looked like it was on a sled.
So to show you some perspective, because everybody always thinks, hey, that thing's running through a field, because it kind of does. But if you don't know what the Everglades are, that same area, people run through there with airboats because it's water. It's just weeds and water. It's weeds standing in water. So here's to show you a little bit of what it's like. You have to take a four-wheeler out there. This is a time he took Marie out there by herself, Marie Dumont, and you can see all the water. This is actually where that thing started running all the way through here, and starts running out here. But this video here kind of shows you, what is it? How deep? 16 inches, 2 foot of water out there typically during the summertime.
Yeah. Just for the sake of saying, I'm going to say that, we're off back. We're kind of right now where the pictures are being taken. That's kind of my property. I'm going to say that just for the sake of saying before I tell you what I'm fixing to tell you. Here's the deal. For the first 20 years of my research, my research was highly suppressed by the National Park Service. They would not allow me to take anyone into the Everglades. They took away all my motor vehicle access. It is illegal to be in that area where we are at, where those videos are being taken right now. Even during the filming that we did there, really there was paperwork that needed to be filled out for us to be in that location. And I have totally abided by the laws of the National Park Service all my life, and I always will. But it has made it very difficult to show the public the places I go and the things that I do. The Everglades is huge. There's a lot of places I go to people haven't seen in 40 and 50 years because of the restrictions that have come down on those pieces of land. And that being coupled with my reluctance to be on reality TV shows, which in my opinion are mostly staged because I wanted to keep my research real, has really held me back as far as, being on television and bringing public awareness out. It wasn't until about 2 years ago that the government relinquish some of its restrictions on filming on government property and broadcasting. It's like a YouTube, like to do a YouTube channel and film in the Everglades was illegal without permits. Those things have changed, but a lot of people, they don't understand what I've gone through as a researcher. But what I'm telling you is the truth. So I've been really held back over the years. I'm hoping moving forward that things will go a little bit smoother.
Do you think they implemented that rule just because of you? With about no filming without it?
I did.
G-Man had to. There's no other ways to look at it.
But my family was targeted for removal. And we were what they call economic genocide, to where they try to force you out by making it so miserable for you to be there that you will leave. And then also The commercial fishing was restricted in the area. What little bit of income was restricted. And I don't know if I should be saying this on your podcast or not, because it doesn't make me look like a good person. But I mean, it's just a fact of my life. But back in the 80s, I was involved in marijuana smuggling. And that was just an alternate form of income. I kind of grew up in an area where being an outlaw is the norm. I mean, I'm in the middle of the Everglades. Anybody lives here is basically an outlaw, or they're running from something. Gator hunter. I grew up eating the wildlife, eating the wading birds. That was my lifestyle. And so all of these rules. This where I live. This is the first national preserve to ever be created in the United States of America. It was created right here at my home. And that means that there's no laws in there. They don't know how to make the law. So I've had to live through the laws being written. And I was pretty much their subject, to see how much a person can take. It was horrible. I was a bureaucracy who was hell bent on destroying everything that I ever loved. And that's another part of my life that a lot of people don't see. They see me on TV, skunk ape hunting. And, well, look at that guy. He thinks there's a skunk ape out there, goof. And that's just damn sure not the way it is. I'm a human being, and I've worked hard to get my name out there, and I've done it against all odds. I am a survivor.
For sure.
Yeah, I watched 500 families leave. 500 families that lived scattered. They were forced out. They claimed that they were bought at, that they had to leave. They didn't have to leave. They left because they wanted to. They got sick and tired of being sick and tired, is what happened. And I was sick and tired too, but I didn't give up.
Because you're a fighter. That's right.
Well, I love my home. I love what I have here. They tried to buy me out back in 1991. They offered me $3 million if I'd leave. Hey, here's $3 million if you get out of town. Well, most people would have took the money. Come on, let's be honest. I mean, 9 out of 10 people, if not 10 people, would have took the money. I didn't take the money, and I'm glad I didn't take it. I don't want their money.
Good.
So yeah, this is home now. So, and this is where I do my research, and it's where I'm going to do my research. And the skunk ape, word of the skunk apes getting out. I'm going to be going into these other areas in Florida where there's skunk apes. I'm going to be bringing this to the public's attention. The state of Florida is going to be paying people a fair market value for their land if they want to sell it. These developers aren't going to be buying this land up. These skunk apes need this land. So I want to see those things happen. I'm saying, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. I don't know if I'm going to do anything, but I tell you what, I'm damn sure going to try, and I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to back down.
That's good. And there's a lot of indigenous in the area too. And I hope they all stand strong too.
Oh, they are. They are. The Indians are doing good. That when I was young, they lived in these camps, and they cooked on a fire. They didn't have no refrigeration. I mean, they were and they were very poor people. They were proud, very proud people. But today, with all the casinos and here in Florida and in good money management, they're good. They're smart people. The Seminole tribe is, I believe, the biggest economic boom here in the state of Florida. I think they're as big as Disney now. They got stuff all over the world. They're low key. They don't talk about it. But let me tell you what, Seminole tribe's got it going on. And I noticed when I went to Tampa, as I came in on the main road, I-4, there's the big Seminole casino sitting there. I tell you what, I couldn't have been prouder. Those people, I know how they feel. I know exactly how they feel, and they deserve everything that they can get. If it's a tax break, if it's whatever, those people gave it all, and they need to have a life too. And I'm very supportive of the tribe.
Dave knows a lot of the history. I thought one of the cool things that you told us one time about the war back in the day and how the Indians stood strong down there and basically they all gave up and left town.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
thought that
the
was interesting.
Seminole Miccosukee tribe are the only Indians in the United States to never surrender. They are the unconquered tribes. The war never ended. They never signed a peace treaty or agreement. They held up here in the Everglades, and it was the most costly Indian battle in American history, in dollars and in human lives. People think of these big Indian wars out west and all the Indians falling off of horses. Well, that ain't nothing to what happened here in the Everglades. That's an untold story because we never won that war. So you're not going to see a lot about that, in history. They got a way of covering things
It's
up.
embarrassing, right? Is that what they look at it as?
As
Get that?
embarrassing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if they're embarrassed or not, but
No, I mean, the history writers probably didn't want to put it in there for that reason. Wow.
yeah, history changes. You know what they say? His story. That's what history is. His story. And more that seems to ring true. The
Right.
truth and history, there might be a little difference there. History
This is,
can be rewritten.
don't believe anything you've heard, right?
Well, listen to it, if you want. I don't know. I don't know anymore, Chris. I'm 60 years old. COVID. Some people think it's real. So and politics and reality television is. I don't know what to believe anymore.
Right. We'll change the subject here. Tell us a little bit about your adventures in the treasure hunting business.
Treasure hunting?
Yeah.
That what
You
you
do
asked
anything like
about?
that?
Oh yeah. I'm back at the research headquarters. The guys they had to go up to Alligator Point up in the Panhandle where their main base is because we just had that hurricane hit. They're back down there. We're getting ready here on Thursday. We've done 80 dives the past 2 months out on American Shoals off of Key West, but we're getting ready to start diving again on Thursday. So I'm trying to get down to Key West. I want to go down there for a few weeks. I'm the assistant to the president of the Bronze Cannon Corporation. I've been doing it for 30 years. We got two of the oldest, richest Spanish galleons ever lost at sea, right off of the Florida Keys. We have the claims to them, and it's just an incredible journey. I never set out to be a treasure hunter. It just kind of fell into place. I mentioned my smuggling days. Well, these are characters that I met back then that they're legit now, but they're a big treasure hunting operation, and I'm proud to be on board, and I'm really looking forward to some public announcements. And this is not some Oak Island where we're trying to make money off a television show. We've spent millions of dollars. We've mapped 65 square miles of seafloor. We're on the verge of some of the greatest. This is like King Tut kind of stuff. This isn't just, oh, we found a box of coins. No, these are the oldest. These are when the initial looting of the Incan Indians. So there's going to be all of these artifacts and things. And we've had offers from National Geographic, Discovery, History to come in and document all of this. But to us, that's more of a nuisance than it is something. We don't need all of that right now. In fact, we're working in the middle of a marine sanctuary, and we really don't like to broadcast everything at this point. But moving forward, this is going to be something huge that takes place probably within the next year, and it'll be on national television. I'm really excited about it. We've uncovered 200. It's 500-year-old ships, but these cannons are worth $250,000 a piece. We've located 5 of them. There's 23 more on the site. None of this stuff is being disturbed right now. All the galleon anchors we've located. We've drawn a picture. We're working with the best archaeologists in the world. And Jimmy Buffett just passed away here on Labor Day weekend. Oh my God! I mean, so we want to hit these shipwrecks. We want to keep the Jimmy Buffett Key West idea alive, for another 100 years. And these shipwrecks are certainly going to do that because they're just right off the coast, and everybody's going to be amazed.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, you get your hands in a lot of different things, Mr. David. I tell you, I don't know how you keep up with it all.
I just do, I just go with the flow. I just came back from the trip with you. I stopped in the Land O'Lakes area with Katie Elizabeth, who's a lake monster hunter. She's very well known. She does a lot of programs. She's here in Florida now. I want her to look at some lake monster sightings here in Florida, particularly the southern part of Lake Okeechobee. There's been some sightings of something unusual there. So I'm bringing in this very talented, well-educated lake monster researcher here into Florida and opening up some doors for her. And we're going to see what we come up with on that end as well. Florida, we've got the Florida man, we've got mermaids, skunk apes. If we had a lake monster, we'd be there.
What are they seeing there?
It's like a big snake, but not it's heavier bodied, long neck. In the reeds and the cattails there on the south end of the lake, people have been seeing it for a long time, years. And most of these, I get sightings like that locally I can go to. Generally, it's a manatee or maybe a big alligator. But these sightings up around Lake Okeechobee are a little different. And we'll find out, because I'm just learning about this underwater listening devices. I didn't realize that manatees communicated like whales, that turtles communicate underwater. I'm learning all this stuff now, which I love to learn. And so they listen for sounds. If there's something big out there that's communicating or making noise, they'll be able to hone in on it pretty quickly, I think.
Well, Okeechobee's freshwater, right?
Freshwater, yeah. It's all freshwater.
So there won't be any manatees. I don't think they get manatees up there because the river's got dams all the way up at Caloosahatchee.
Yeah, but those manatees, they've learned. Them manatees, they know. They'll sit at the gates, and when the boat goes in, they'll go in. So the manatees do go in and out of Lake Okeechobee.
Oh, do they?
Believe it or not, there's manatees in Lake Okeechobee.
I never knew that.
Yeah. So so if it's manatees, we're gonna find out. We're gonna do some research in there. I'm excited.
Yeah, that's possible. Very cool. Very cool. Let's see. Is there anything else we wanted to talk about here? Grizzly, you got any questions?
No, I'm just amazed and honored to have him on the show. And this is all great stuff. It's fantastic.
Well, it's an honor to be on your show, Grizz. I appreciate it. And maybe Chris helps me a lot with my research. The Mid-Florida Bigfoot Research group that he's a member of, in my book, is #1. And so if you ever want me to come back on or chime in on something, you just let Chris know. And I don't care where I'm doing. I don't care if I'm treasure hunting or whatever. I'm here for you.
Yeah, that sounds like a winner. Yeah, it's really great. Everybody's real excited. Everybody's chiming in out there in the chat room on you. So yeah, this is perfect.
Yeah, for sure. David, would definitely appreciate you. I could hold you for 4 hours and talk about crap. So, I promise you, we keep you at an hour. So
yeah,
we'll let you go, and we'll definitely have to hook up again and talk some more for sure. I appreciate it.
Well, yeah, God bless you guys and have a good evening. And it believe me, it was a pleasure being on your show. It means so much to me that you asked me to be on here with you tonight. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And coast to coast and around the world, ladies and gentlemen, that's a wrap. We'll catch you on the next one.
Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.